Beep.
Oh, I should have done it before.
Now, I would like to introduce the one, the only, me.
Hey, folks, it's Dre from Tattoo Squid Podcast. I almost tongue-tied myself there for a minute there. But we are here with the guy for the MacGyver podcast, which is my favorite show, and SG1 series as well. I actually have something here which I'm trying to find, and it just escaped me a little bit. Where are you, you son of a bitch? Anyway, so introduce yourself. Then we go to Mac Jackson. That's what it is. Mac Jackson. I have it
That's
right in
me.
front of me. I have it
Yeah,
right in front of me.
I am lucky enough to host the MacGyver podcast, the Never Gets Old podcast. I also write, produce, perform in the MacGyver SG1 audio series, which is a labor of love. They all are. And I have a band called Harmony Constant that I perform with my wife. And some of the music is used in the Never Gets Old podcast. So it's, kind of crossing the streams there. But yeah, it's all found under the Forever Adventure Network. So if anybody out there is interested to check out any of these plus more, we have a store. By the way, great sale this weekend because of Memorial Day. It's like 60% off everything that we have at our store. But yeah, check out the Forever Adventure Network, and I try to have something for everybody.
Future Forever Network.
The Forever Adventure Network is the
Oh,
name of it.
forever. I'm sorry. My bad. My
Oh,
bad.
see, I'll tell you the idea of that because of MacGyver and Stargate, and I'm a superhero guy. I collect comics. Adventure had to be part of it, and Forever Adventure Network is FAN, fan. So I figured that's kind of a fun thing to play with. So if you go to the fan site, it's Forever Adventure Network.
Okay.
See?
And folks, if you don't know what MacGyver is, here's a little tidbit. All right. Which is nice and soulful and calming. You know.
Oh, it's intriguing, and then wait for it.
And oh shit. There we go. Alrighty.
As
I don't
my
want to get copyrighted or anything like that.
No,
So
no, 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 no. It's not like you're profiting off it. So it's a same thing. Like my thought is, you're presenting great stuff to the world. You're not, looking for the dollars and cents of it all.
oh, I know, but I mean, I don't really put down like say like when we're doing this, and then I put
Mhm.
it on there. So whatever goes on, hopefully I don't get a thing that says copyright, whatever. I don't even write down saying, oh, this is not my music. I'm like, I,
Yeah,
this is the first I've used something, but it's only been a few seconds, so hopefully then
you're
I can make a
fine.
mistake.
You're good.
So I'm hoping I'm gonna be good. But as it is, because I want, and that's gonna be like for like audio wise, I'm gonna put like something in there. I always put a little tidbit. Folks, if you haven't heard like my podcast is about everything and everybody about podcasting or celebrities or whoever that wants to come on the show, and we talk, we bullshit, and if they want to drink, they can drink, be merry. And then we have fun and all that. So you get a little bit of everything, folks. You might get some kind of like, oh, let's talk about a little bit of politics or religion, which I don't like to do because I don't like slander shit. Because people come at you like, you don't know what you're talking about. Well, I don't. I'm just giving my opinion. So my opinion matters. So, but uh, in that, and I seen that my friend here, Mr. Jackson, Mac for short, does the MacGyver podcast, and I've always wanted to talk to him because I love the old, classic. MacGyver. You know,
Good,
I
good,
don't want to
Kenneth.
say I don't want to say old because it's like very classic. It's where you watch it and you're like, you know what, I could probably try to do some of these inventions he uses with duct tape. Like I could do this with duct tape. I'm like, it fucking works. But I don't know if you want to heal yourself, with duct tape, but I don't know. So, but also it is very entertaining. They went through, I believe, 7 series, maybe.
So, yep, 7 seasons
TV.
and 2 TV movies.
Yes. And it's really like it's like one of those shows is very educational.
Oh
It.
yeah, yeah. I mean that the only thing that they wouldn't do true to science, which again they didn't necessarily have to do, but thank God they did. Anything you saw was real.
Yeah.
Unless he was going to make something that would explode, they would take an ingredient out because they didn't want little kids going, "Aha! I'm going to blow up my teacher,"
Exactly. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I thought that was smart. But more importantly, I mean, a thing that I often say, and if you've heard the show, what I often say is the MacGyverisms would get you in the door, but it was Richard Dean Anderson that kept you on the couch
Yeah.
because you're intrigued, like, "Ooh, this guy can create stuff out of nothing." But that alone wouldn't keep you. He had to be an exceptional human being morally and someone to aspire to. And that's why the only, quite frankly, MacGyver is why we're talking, why I do a podcast, why it's still in the dictionary and common, usage in everyday conversation was because it was exceptional as far as a character goes,
Yeah.
right?
Oh,
I
definitely.
mean,
Yeah.
and it wasn't, and they it's amazing because again, when you watch them a million times as I do,
Definitely.
you notice things that are really brilliant that every other show could learn from. They never went with the cliche. They never got preachy.
Nah.
They always made sure that he wasn't perfect in every way. Which the reboot, we can go down that road if you want. If you want to hear me rant, I'll rant about the reboot. But
I'm
one
glad
of the
you said
major
that
things,
because I'm the same boat as you.
yeah,
Because like I hate reboots. So.
one of the things that was amazing that they quietly did, they never shined a light on it, was MacGyver was not the best fighter in the world. Like he would get punched in the face,
Mm-hmm.
he could get shot. Yes, he could do MacGyverisms as only he can. But everything else, they made sure, like he didn't speak multiple languages. He would try, he would know a couple words, like, you and I may know Das Vidania or,
Yeah.
Aloha, but we're not fluent in every other language. And it made him human and also avoided you detesting this guy. Because if the guy walks into the room and can do everything, well, you hate him. I would hate that guy.
Yeah.
And that's what they did in the reboot. They didn't bother to follow, they didn't try and connect it to MacGyver other than the fact that, oh, this guy can make stuff. Well, the science that they made on the reboot wasn't real. And they just made him, oh, I can speak every language and I'm a cocky, arrogant SOB and stand out of the way, folks. I'm here. Well,
Yeah.
your audience hates that little. I mean, right from the very first scene of the reboot, I'm like, oh, I hate this guy. Because again, the the downside to running the podcast about MacGyver is I have to watch the good, the bad, and the oh my god, this is terrible,
Yeah.
which is what the reboot was. And I still, even though I hated it, people go, well, why you watch it? Because I had to stay educated on the topic. So I had to sit there every Friday night and go, maybe this will be the one where they finally understand who the character is. Nope. Okay.
Yeah.
It was torture for those 5 years that reboot was on.
It was 5 years. Oh shit.
Yeah, I know. One of the one of the happiest days of my life is when we got the cancellation news. I laughed for that sounds mean spirited, and I don't mean it mean spirited, but garbage is garbage, and I was just giddy at the fact that I had this monkey off my back where, okay, not only do I not have to watch it, it's not tarnishing the legacy that is MacGyver.
Yeah.
Right?
No, definitely.
Do you remember when you first got into MacGyver?
Oh, like I think I was in high school. I think. Yeah, I think it was high school. I believe. I'm not sure exactly. I seen every episode there is, so it's like the very first time where he's like a military person. He was in the military in the beginning.
Yep, yep.
He
No,
did.
no. His past was he was in Vietnam. He was in the bomb disposal unit.
Yeah, but also he was doing reconnaissance missions, a couple here and there for contracts or whatever. But that was like in the beginning before he got to the Phoenix Foundation. So now with Phoenix Foundation, he got just pretty much drawn into it. It wasn't like he applied to it because he was hanging out with Pete Thornton and Murdoch came around.
Well, because the way it started, if you go through the history, is he was working for the DXS in the government.
Yeah.
Department of External Services or whatever. So, so that's, and then Pete comes along and becomes the boss essentially of the DXS.
Yeah.
Well, off screen, Pete gets a different job with the Phoenix Foundation. And what I've read is what you don't see, but you just are supposed to understand is he had said, "Come with me, MacGyver. I'm now joining this think tank organization." Yeah. And so like, yeah, all right, whatever. As long as I get to be, freelance. So yeah, then once they made it the Phoenix Foundation, well now, and the writers have told me this, they got to open it up to any sort of mission. It wasn't just go in and sabotage this military base.
No. It was more like helping out.
Yeah, exactly.
Retrieve this, go and get this paper,
recyclable this.
Yeah. So yeah. It's like a James Bond kind of thing, but without the shaken and stirred. Where there is a small part of that, you see that in one or two episodes where he is in a tuxedo, which he does not like to do, and he's in a tuxedo, and he goes, MacGyver, just MacGyver, like that kind of thing, and they're shaking that. Yeah.
There's the first season where he's in the tux, and they said, "Oh, what's your name?" Bond, James Bond.
Yeah.
Because as soon as you see a guy in a tuxedo, of course you think James Bond.
Yeah. But he's like more like the rugged, and throughout the seasons, he is known for the outdoorsman, the one that can live off the land, that can do everything, which is like my favorite episode, which is the Bigfoot episode.
Oh yeah.
So the Bigfoot episode, and people, if you don't know and you don't watch it, the Bigfoot episode, basically he goes and he has to put markers in certain areas to make the territory, foundation wise, to make it known that it's the quadrant of it, and they had to do all this stuff. So there's 5 people, and MacGyver gets stuck seeing this big barge in the middle of the lake of nowhere. And he investigates, and then there's this big, huge Sasquatch-looking thing, that comes and almost attacks him. Finds a girl that's on there, not a hot girl, just a girl itself, and jumped off the boat for freedom. But Bigfoot himself was, searching for him, but it all turns around to be siphoning the pipeline. And the crew that they thought was dead was the ones that was siphoning the pipeline, and hence that's why you couldn't get said markers up. And then Pete Thornton comes to the rescue. Yeah.
Well, what I love is, and through the years I find out more of the behind the scenes stuff. There was a lot that could have changed in that show. And thank God it didn't. Like, Pete comes along when he's needed. He's not in every episode, but they also don't have him befuddled all the time. Like, Pete is, you believe that he's his boss, but he also has such faith in his best friend that he's like, "You don't know MacGyver. Relax. If he didn't catch up to doing these quadrants yet, there must be a reason."
Yeah.
And it's great because it's very easy to write him constantly going, MacGyver, what are you doing with that thing? Well, that would get annoying real fast. And I always give Dana Elcar great praise because the couple times when he has had to say lines similar to that, he was such a great actor and his delivery was so good that you go, no, that was natural. I believe that. And I know that not many characters or actors, I should say, can pull off that kind of line once, let alone, more.
Yeah. Yeah, but
And like,
what's your favorite episode? Actually, let's go with that too.
what are you doing? You're talking to a guy who watches all. I don't have a favorite. I can tell you, it'd be easier to tell you the ones that are not. It's MacGyver. It's part of my soul.
Yeah.
He's Richard Dean Anderson has been my idol. So I'm gonna love anytime he's on screen. So each season, each episode has its own unique magic. And that's not me. That's not me whitewashing the whole thing and going, I love everything because it's MacGyver. No. I'll tell you, I could tell you the 2 episodes that come to mind, and I know there's a couple that are a little lower on my list of repeat watching. And I know why. There's Jenny's Chance, which is the one where Jack Dalton's there and they all have to pretend that they're not who they are. There's Twice Stung, which is also very much like The Sting, which is why it was called that.
Yeah.
That's a season 2 episode where they're undercover and they're trying to get a guy who's, bookie, and both of those are kind of along the same lines because what they did was, we're going to take the character that you love and he's going to pretend through the whole episode that he's somebody else. And we're going to focus on other characters other than MacGyver. Well, there you go. Now you just lowered how much I'm enjoying it because he's not on screen enough.
Yeah.
Like Richard Dean Anderson is one of those actors, and they always say David Tennant is another one. There's certain actors that they don't even have to be the focus, but the moment that the screen is on them, you want to see what they're going to do.
Yeah.
Like, by their facial expressions, and they're not saying the lines. They could just sit there and listen. But if the camera is on them, your eye is drawn to them because they're just so darn entertaining. So with those type of episodes, if you're not going to show MacGyver, there was another episode that was supposed to be the pilot for the Coltons.
Yeah.
Great episode. Don't get me wrong. That should have been a spin-off series. By all means, it was a great cast. I have nothing bad to say about it, but MacGyver's in the beginning and he's in the end tag of the episode.
Yeah.
Because, again, he wasn't the focus. Nobody's fault. But do I feel like watching that over and over again? No. Other than those couple moments where he's there, So that's kind of how I judge what's going to be less than exquisite for my, enjoyment. Yeah. Same thing with Stargate. Stargate, it may not be a Jack O'Neill focused episode, but if he's there, show me the scenes with him.
Yeah.
He's just fun. I love watching him. Not to mention, clearly this is a kind of thing to say, but he is a brilliant, underrated actor. He does things naturally and subtly that I even talked to him about this last time I saw him. My wife had brought up, we watched this episode and you kind of do this thing with your hand that isn't supposed to draw anybody's attention, but Jack kind of reaches and pulls back from Carter. And she said, was that planned? He goes, no, we just kind of go with what we feel at that moment. And those type of instincts, you can't train somebody on. You're just naturally, and he's just naturally one of those guys that subtle movements can mean the world.
Yeah. It's like I'm watching it, and like I said, because it's a very instrumental, we call it an instructional kind of like show where you can look at it and like I said, you can be like, for years, because like when I was in high school and I'm like, okay, and I'm watching MacGyver, and then you can see that, because honestly, it's not like stuff that he just thought of like, oh, I'm gonna put this together and put this together, and then this should make like some kind of explosion or whatever. No, he was in college. He went to college. He, focused on biology, focused on chemistry,
Engineering.
and everything
Engineering.
else. And he learned all that and brought it out there to the world. And some people just don't know it because you got like, kids that run away, that go and fish by the pier, and then he gets attacked, by the affiliates like in Russia or something like that, and they poison him. But they think he's drunk and all that. But he knows how to magnetize you know, a pole to get like a metal, pen that
Yeah.
has the antidote in there. But he just does physics and everything else.
Well,
That's how he learned it.
I'll tell you, a lot of, being the MacGyver guy, I have through the years had to explain to people or defend the misconceptions that maybe people who don't watch the show but know of the show, they think, oh, he just wishes that in that room he had a pitchfork, and oh, there's a pitchfork there. I said, no, that's not how his mind works. Richard Dean Anderson years ago put it brilliantly. It's a combination of a perspective on how to look at things combined with education. So he's not thinking, golly gee, I wish I had, some tape. Oh, there it is. I found it. That's not what it is. It's, all right, I'm stuck in this room. I need something that's bent like this and then can turn. All right, what's around? Okay, so this won't work. But if I take the guts out of it, there is a piece in there, and he's piecing things together to get the end result out of what is around him. It's not him wishing he had something in particular. He just looks around the room and says, what do I have to work with?
Yeah.
Then goes from there.
Build something out of nothing, basically. Yeah.
Right? Right?
And it's like that other like episode where Murdoch, is trying to, kill MacGyver over and over again, but MacGyver gets out of it. And you could say we call MacGyver, I mean, not MacGyver, that Murdoch gets out of every fiery situation, murder situation, cliff situation that you think he died, but then he escapes for some reason and all that, but then comes back for another one. Like the one episode where he had to like team up with MacGyver or ask MacGyver's help because
Halloween Nights. Yeah.
yeah. He had he has a sister that was kidnapped by the organization, and he's like, well, my enemy is my friend, kind of thing, and then brings them in. But then now he's like, no wonder why I can't get I don't even know what you're gonna do next.
What's the line? He says, no wonder you're so unbeatable, MacGyver. Nobody knows what you're going to do next, including you.
Yeah, exactly. It's like he goes, huh. But that's like my favorite character as well. I mean, I love all of them, like MacGyver, Jack, with the squinty eye, when he lies. Murdoch is like my favorite one out of the whole thing.
He's the best villain. I'll tell you, for me, there's a couple characters that will haunt your nightmares because they're so good. Two of them for me that I will have dreams about is Murdoch, who Michael DeBar does such an excellent. He's supposed to be on the podcast sometime if I can pin him down, just like Richard Dean Anderson. But his performance and layers of, he's not a one-trick pony. He's, he laughs, but he's also deceitful, and so there's him, and then with SG-1, the replicators scare the crap out of you.
Yeah.
The mechanical, spider things that are coming for you.
Yeah.
And the moment you do that, oh man, So I have had dreams where I'll wake up and go, huh, well, thank God that was a dream.
I know, you're like, where am I? And dreams can be like really realistic. When you think that you're like, I had dreams where I'm like, I'm at work and then something happens and they're like, oh, you're fired. And then you wake up like, I'm like, do I have it? And I looked at my girlfriend. I'm like, I still work at the place, right? And they're like, yeah, why would you think that? I'm like, I think it was a dream. It just felt so fucking real.
Years ago, I learned how to know when I'm in a dream.
Yep.
Like, I don't have dreams where I'm like, oh, I thought that was real. I I don't remember when, but I think it was like when I was a teenager, I started to figure out like you're in a dream, you go, okay, I'm gonna call bull crap on this one. And then sometimes it's great. If you're having a nightmare, you go, nope, nope, I'm out. I'm not doing this. Or which happens a lot with me, is I'll have a great dream where I'm on an adventure with MacGyver, and Murdoch shows up, or even if MacGyver's not there, I'll hear, you know, hello, MacGyver, and I'm like, and in my dream, oh crap, now I have to deal with Murdoch. Now logically, I go, okay, this is a dream, but I'll keep it going. If
Yeah.
I'm enjoying the dream, I try to keep it going.
Yeah, I always like, and I mentioned this to somebody. Her name is Veronica or V. She has a thing with like life paranormal, and she's a medium. So we were talking about like dreams and all that, and then I'm like, I have a tendency to be able to like just twist it around a little bit. Like people just sit, they like lay there and then they're dreaming about something and they're like, oh, yeah, and they're in a cold sweat. But then when I see something that's like really like evil looking, which I love horror, it doesn't really matter to me. But I can sleep soundly. I can be able to like twist it around and have like a fun thing, like oh, the demon has like a bonnet in his head, like a bonnet on his head or something like that. Like, hey, what are you laughing about? Like that kind of thing, or even like I mentioned that when I was sleeping and I had this like it was a nightmare, but it was like a dream where I'm laying there and there's zombies like going like this, going around in
Sure.
a circle on the bed. And then all of a sudden I wake up and they stop and then they look at me, like look down, and you can see, it's like how that video camera thing where you're like laying there and you look up and then there's these faces just looking at you,
Sure.
and then one by one they just like fade out, and then you see them fade out, and then
Mhm.
I'm like, huh, okay, that was weird, but I mean I could just like making it something different, and she's like, oh, you have a gift. I'm like, no, I think it's just something that happens, it's just
It,
and my
it's
girlfriend,
nice when you can enjoy the dream or
yeah,
potential night,
yeah,
because I never want to be fooled. That's like a thing that when I was a kid, and it's not nothing major, but when I was a kid, I loved Fonzie,
oh yeah,
right? I mean, how do you not love the Fonz? Well,
hey,
when you're a little kid, you go, "What I see is what it is. This has to be true," because you're tiny, you don't know. And then I see who Henry Winkler is, and I go, "Oh, that's not the same guy." Henry Winkler's demeanor is not Fonzie.
yeah,
So ever since then, the moment I get invested in something, I need to know the truth. I need to know where's the line of reality of. We could use MacGyver for example. The only thing that's not Richard Dean Anderson in MacGyver would be obviously the MacGyverisms because
yeah,
those are written and those are created. Now he's even said he plays it down, but he figures stuff out. He won't go, well, yes, I could do it because he's humble.
yeah,
Above all else, he's a modest guy who, that's what I love the best. But he said that there have been times where he's had to make a MacGyverism to get out of it. He was in a house that he had, and he was in the basement, and mudfall came through the window and trapped him like this high
oh
in
wow,
his basement. And he had to figure out how to get out of it, and he did. And there was, things like that, or like fixing his bike, or and I think it's not a limiting talent; it's an inspirational talent, right? But
yeah,
as MacGyver would say himself, there's no reason why anybody else can't do this. Everybody should be able to think outside the box,
oh yeah,
educate yourself, be creative, and be their own MacGyver.
yeah,
Um, so it's great to hear those stories from actual MacGyver and go, yeah, tell me more.
and it's funny that we could the people that's on MacGyver go on to like either do bigger things, you know,
Oh,
well,
sure.
like Robert Englund, he was in we call it in
First
MacGyver.
season episode.
Now
Yeah.
look, he's Freddy Krueger. We call him like a whole bunch of like a franchise on Nightmare on Elm Street.
Uh-huh.
Terry Hatcher, you know,
Sure.
also Superman and Lois, and she's been on a couple of movies where she was in
Desperate Housewives.
Desperate Housewives, but then she was also in the movie that we were just talking about, 007. So she was one of the Bond girls.
But again, she's been working forever, and every time I see her, obviously, as I'm sure you do too, whenever you see one of these guys, Cuba Gooding Jr., I'm like, from MacGyver, from MacGyver. It doesn't matter what else they do. I don't care if they become president of the United States; they'll always be the president of the United States that was on MacGyver.
Even though the evil Zito.
Oh sure,
Dr. Zito and all that. You see him in a couple of things, and you're like, huh. Well,
a lot of people have said that they wanted to see, which I thought would have been interesting, Zito and Murdoch team up against MacGyver. However, I mean, in my opinion, and who knows, I may write this in a future episode of my audio series. I honestly think Murdoch would betray him.
Oh yeah.
He'd use him. Yeah, we're buddies, we're pals, but in the end, Murdoch's going to go, you're disposable.
Well, even Zito can do the same thing. Yeah,
sure.
He can do the same thing. He's done it from a prison cell.
Yep, yep. But I think Murdoch is a little more skilled, I would say, overall, as far as manipulation and, as nothing against Zito, but Zito is basically their version of Hannibal Lecter, which is clearly what they're going for with the Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah.
He's a great, scary villain. I love that they brought him back and it wasn't just a one and done. But overall, I'd say, no, there's a reason Murdoch is MacGyver's arch enemy.
Yeah.
Like that,
Yeah, and then they had, I can't remember the name though, but he has there was a woman that was brought
Deborah.
in. Yeah, Deborah.
Deborah. Yeah.
I couldn't remember the name, but she is also can be part of that group as it is, even though you can't trust her.
Yeah, but not anymore, because last time we saw her, she fell off a cliff.
But you never know. It could be a Murdoch kind of thing, too. She may come back and hey, you thought I was dead, stranger things have happened, no pun intended. But, and are you a fan of different stuff other than MacGyver, say Stranger Things, for instance, or?
Of course. Oh, sure. It's funny too. When I first met Richard Dean Anderson, I was telling, and this is before I did the audio series. Before I started the audio series, I was just doing the 2 podcasts, and when I met him, he goes, you're the MacGyver podcast? Tell me you do something else too. I said, oh yeah, I got loads of other interests, but I'm a musician, so singer songwriter. I that's part of my heart and soul. I wouldn't be able to stop doing that even if I wanted to.
Yeah.
I'm a big comic book guy, so I've always, I'll tell you, I had a handful of books that I would get if my aunt took me to the local candy store.
Yeah.
And so once in a while I would get a comic book and wow, I get to read Batman that I only saw in the cartoon Super Friends or whatever, or Spider-Man or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
And from the age of 15 on, I've been collecting nonstop. So it's a weekly, you have to go get your books, or in my case now I get them through the iPad. So I'm constantly reading, and which I'll tell you, between you and me,
yeah,
there's a new thing that I notice with the world. There are people who think that they are Marvel experts, but they've only seen the movies. They don't read the books, but they think they're Marvel experts. I'm like, no, you're precious, but you've limited your knowledge.
You're just a precious person.
I just go, aw, you are just adorable the way you think you know things. But the moment you go, have you read the source material? No. Well, Civil War, did you read the comic? No. Well, then get off your butt, pay it forward to pay it back to the comic book company that's making these movies happen.
Yeah.
And read. You could get these collections really cheap on Comixology.
Yeah.
So there's that, and
you go to your local place too. They have now comic books nowadays are $7, I think, or something, or get
it depends on what you get, when you get it, and I'm moving because I have to plug in this phone. it gave me the warning that I'm at 15%.
Oh, I hate that.
Right. So, yeah, I mean, I try to support my local comic book store. Look above me. There you go. You got Marvel there. You got DC there.
Yeah.
So this is my computer room. It's kind of basically the area to put up stuff that you love. There's Batman. It's because as an adult, as you know, you can't put posters up in your living room or the dining room. Like you have your certain rooms that you're allowed to put your fun stuff in.
Yeah.
Well, this is one of mine. But yeah, on Comixology, like I try and support the local guy, but I switched over to digital comics for a couple of reasons. One, I can get them when I want. If you go through the comic book store, you either have to take your chances, hope they have it, or pre-order them, in which case you don't know what you're getting until you got it. Now you still have to buy it.
Yeah.
And the big one too was, what do you do with them afterwards?
I know, right?
I gotta store them. Like my attic is full of. Since I was 15, I started collecting, so I had to save. I'm trying to go through them and sell some, but now you got to go through a box and separate the keepers from the sellers. It's a hassle, but with Comixology, they'll have sales that you can get, big collections that you're talking about, $7.
Yeah.
There might be a sale for a big collection that is normally $25. Well, for this week, it's $3. So yoink, I'm getting those.
Yeah. Or the 50-cent ones. There's like if you're lucky enough to go to a comic book store that has like the comics, like they have like one section where they're only 25 cents or 50 cents a comic. Mm-hmm. And I usually go to those first and find something like some gems like Ghost Rider or Justice League, or even like the later version ones like Wildcats, or something like that, And then you're like, oh wow, and now you only spend like $3, and I got like 10 fucking comics or whatever.
As long as you got good ones, And again, like the point I'm at now, where is with Marvel comics, I read Daredevil because Daredevil's my favorite Marvel guy. Batman's my favorite DC guy, so I'm always going to get those books. But Marvel kind of has done a thing lately where they constantly keep resetting the clock. So if you're reading this great story for a year, wow, they really upended everything. They, in Civil War in the comics, they changed everything. It was, okay, they may be heroes, but this side doesn't like that side. And so whenever they meet, well, now they're going to fight. Great. Well, besides the bad guy that they're trying to fight, you have that underlying tension that can be used forever. And Spider-Man was on the run, and he wasn't staying at home. They really did something great, and I really loved it. Well, after a year, Marvel went, okay, start again, and they reset everything.
Yeah.
Well, now I feel like a fool. Like, why am I bothering to buy these big epic stories if it doesn't matter? And their logic is they will get new readers because it's a great jumping on point. It's our new number one. Okay, but what about the people who've been reading for the last, 50 years or whatever?
Yeah.
What about them? Like, you're just kind of throwing them away and hoping to trick people. So my point is, Marvel, I'll wait until a story is done. And if it gets enough buzz, then I'll go back and grab like the collection.
Yeah. No, definitely.
Right?
Yeah, I tried to get a little, because I got like 5 boxes of like, and I usually try to sell off ones that are not like, like I got Ghost Rider, I got Justice League, I got Alpha Flight. Like when you get the continuations and you go by the numbers, like comic book 1 and then 2 and then you go forward. But like ones that not gonna have a following or something, I'm like, oh, I'll try to sell this one off.
Sure.
And it's like some like Japanese ones or something I don't really, because I did a giveaway. Excuse me. On my last the first season I did.
Okay.
And I was like, I had like names in a hat, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna do like a giveaway, just pick a name out of a hat, and then friends of mine donated like a necklace with a skull, and no one did like video game shit, movie shit, whatever. And then I had like a stack of comics like that big, and I'm like, you know
Hmm.
what? I don't really. I mean, I like them, but it's not something I'm gonna keep on hold on because I don't know if there's gonna be money involved.
Sure.
And I'm like, all right, I'll just give these away. And then I gave it away, and then I picked like three names. So like the one girl, Ye Old Crime Podcast. I'm gonna have to write this down for honorable mentions. Hold on, Ye Old Crime Podcast, and she got like a necklace with a skull on it, from a friend of mine. So she loved that one. And then uh, was it Dad Bod's podcast? I think it's called. Uh, which is funny about that one. I had, uh, like the what's the Joker's girlfriend?
Harley. Harley Quinn.
Harley Quinn. I'm sorry, Harley Quinn. We quite had a Harley Quinn umbrella, from
Hmm.
them. They gave me we call it like a Nintendo strap, a Legend of Zelda strap. Like a tote bag of Nightmare on Elm Street, the hat that says "Good Guys" on it from Chucky. So it had like all this cool stuff that I would love as well. But when I found out and I heard their podcast, like a couple of episodes, and they got into the one where they, hey, we got some from Tattoo Squid, we were in a drawing or something, and then it's like, and we got this and this, and we are not really a horror family. We don't even let our kids watch it, and I'm like, oh, really? Like, oh,
Well,
I mean,
get on the
find
stick then.
somebody, you know?
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And also, hey, you brought your show to their mind, so that works.
Yeah. Yeah, and then that was it. And then the comic books that gave to the the guy this guy Squid Talks.
Hmm.
Which I just pulled out a hat. I didn't even think. I'm like, oh, my cousin. I'm like, okay, yeah. And I
I
sent it to him, and
I I always try to like I have a bag of pins that were made for the MacGyver SG1 audio series. They're
oh,
about yay
okay,
big. Um, and I kind of pushed that through our Patreon to say, if you contribute to the Patreon of the Forever Adventure Network, I get to send you a pin. But if I'm at a convention, if I'm attending a convention, I'll keep some in my pocket because I found it weird, wonderful, weird, but people will recognize me and come up and go, hey, I like your show. Well, hang on, here's a pin.
here you go. Here's a
if
pen.
if I were independent, like I don't make any money off of any of this stuff, but if I had made some sort of money like you, I think I would funnel it back towards people. Like you're listening, good. Boom, here's a pin. Boom, here's a T-shirt. Boom,
Yeah,
here's this, that, and the other. Just because, not necessarily to even promote the show, but as a way of saying thank you. Like the fact that anybody listens, I always still find amazing. I'm thankful and I do my best. I know, I don't look at it as these shows are about me.
yeah,
It's about celebrating what we love, whether it's like yours is similar to the Never Gets Old podcast, where we talk about all the things that we love that make us who we are.
yeah,
Well, on a more funneled version is the MacGyver podcast, which is what I know enough about that I can talk of and also promote and say, how do you not get inspired by this character? Or even, Richard Dean Anderson as a person. Let's celebrate that. So that's what it's about for me. But if people are listening and I can spoil somebody, here, take. I do the same with my family, like the kids. I can't help if I'm in a store and I see something and I can afford it and I think they're really going to like it, I snag it.
yeah, yeah. Well, that's what I do
Which
with
I
my
think would
nieces.
be that would be the good side about being independently wealthy. People would just make out like bandits from all the stuff I would give them.
Yeah, I know. It's like, oh shit. It's like I do that with my nieces and my niece and nephews. We call it. I'll go and they love like DC. Well, not really DC, but they like Marvel stuff. They'll dress up and all that, and now my niece is getting into the whole thing. She likes like race car stuff but she's autistic, which is fine. But at least she has like an outlook of what she likes.
And that's the
And
thing too,
yeah,
because I never wanted to push any of that on my kids. I figured what I like is what I like, and maybe they'll like the same thing, maybe they won't. But I don't want to. I was never heavy-handed with you have to love comics. You
yeah,
have to love this. But by being my kids and paying attention and listening to what I listen to or watching, on their own, they have discovered what they like, and coincidentally, it tends to be exactly what I like.
yeah. Because I think I did one of these. I got a comic book, and it was something that I would think that she likes, And then if she reads it, that's great. If not, if she wants to know one, then I'll go on and get another one. And then I did
Yeah.
the same thing with my nephews. I saw something and they love for me, I have tattoos, so they like Spider Man. I got the Spider Man original Spider Man face. So like the whole
Steve Ditko drawing. Is that what you're saying? It looks like
yeah, it's like the red with the black. Like you see like the Spider Man Amazing Friends kind of thing.
yeah, Pete Parker.
So
Sure.
like that, and they like the Transformers, so they like the Decepticons. So I got the Decepticon symbol, which I love Decepticons too. So it's not like something I'm like, oh my god, I got to put this on my leg. I'm like, all right, and then other stuff, whatever. But and then they like Lego Batman, and for some reason I got Lego Batman. I'm like,
Well, I'll tell you. You reminded me. I have found on Twitter. Probably like you. I loved the Transformers when I was a kid, and He-Man and GI Joe, and
oh yeah,
right, like those are near and dear. Those are some of my favorite toys ever. The GI Joe. Well, there's a couple Twitter. One is called Serpentor's Lair, and the other one is like GI Joe something. But basically, they post the blister packs of the figures or the figures themselves and say which of these two do you like more. Um, I'll tell you, that brings me back. I realize how good I kept all my guys. I kept all the forts and all the vehicles, and unfortunately, the rubber band and the GI Joes dry up and snap. But I still have all
yeah,
the pieces. But man, those were great toys. I look at those Twitter pages every day, and I'm like, boy. Now they come out with the 6-inch versions that are really good, really detailed.
yeah.
46, and I really can't be buying toys for myself because I'm 46 and I only make so much money. But if my son likes them, like I'll get him the 6-inch Batman or Daredevil or figures. Back to the Future is one of my favorite trilogies ever.
Yeah.
So and at the age of 9, I introduced him to the same thing, and he loves it just as much. So he gets the bigger figures, and he appreciates it. Even if he's not going to play with them, he'll still pose them and have them displayed. But I'll tell you, the GI Joe stuff, if they ever started to resell GI Joe again, that would be a
Yeah.
tough decision because man, I want those guys. I love those guys. And remember, and that was the day you had the vehicles. They would give you the vehicles and the forts, and I realized, like, boy, that's expensive. At the time, a figure was $3, but
Yeah.
it adds up. And now they're not going. They wouldn't go for $3.
Nah. It's like even the vehicles itself would probably be like $40 now, $50 if anything.
At least.
At least,
At least.
that's lowballing it. But when you watch the GI Joe cartoon as it is, what was your favorite characters? Like the ones that you really,
Okay.
I know
There's
you're
a,
probably
there's
gonna
a
say
few.
all of them, but
Nope.
yeah.
Nope. Nope. There's some I hated. I
Oh, okay.
hated Flint. I hated Flint so much because now, by the way, I just bought Omnibus's collections of the GI Joe Marvel comics. So I started I'd never really read them before. I'd read once in a while, but it's a much more serious take because people die in the comic. Larry
Yeah.
Hama writes it and is basically the godfather of what we know of GI Joe is because of Larry Hama. He wrote the back of the blister packs and gave them their bios and personalities. But okay, so off the top of my head, some of my favorites have always been Snake Eyes. You gotta love Snake Eyes,
Okay, yeah, that's mine too.
right? And the visor version is the best outfit. Version
Yeah.
2 is visor when he got Timber the wolf.
Yeah.
Duke, I love Duke. Duke looks like a military guy, which has always been one of the things that would drive me nuts about G.I. Joe. If you can get some great looking guys, but at certain points you can also get some stupid looking guys. Like, wait a minute, this guy who looks like he's a clown with a laser outfit, you expect him to stand side by side with Stalker in his camouflage?
Yeah.
There has to be some. I don't mind personality, but it should still have some sort of relevance to military if you're G.I. Joe. Like, there are some characters that you go, come on, he looks like a bad superhero from the 40s, not a military man. So let's see. Duke, I loved. Some of them I like also just because of the way that they looked in their outfit, like Hawk, General Hawk with his leather jacket. He looked cool. Gung Ho, Quick Kick. I always loved Quick Kick because he had the Chinese stars on his sash, and he was a martial artist, which I am, and I always had like that kind of draw to those kind of figures. And then like Serpentor, I was thrilled when I got the Serpentor figure with his chariot that he flew. But yeah, then here's why I hate Flint. Flint they bring in. You're watching the series, Duke is the leader. Duke is the leader. Duke is the leader. Boom, new season. Duke's not there, and they bring Flint in. And Flint, you're supposed to go, why are they listening to this guy?
Yeah.
If you read what he's about, I'm like, yeah, I wouldn't follow this guy. And I was spiteful as a little kid, like, no. You don't get to shake things up like that and throw Flint in there. So because of that, I'm like, and there's nothing wrong with the look of Flint. I just didn't like him.
Yeah.
Because of that. It depends. Like I said, there's a difference between the animated series and the comic book / action figure, because the cartoon I could watch now and it's great animation, but some of the voices would be like, I don't know, Flint, let's go into the jungle. Okay. Or Gung Ho is, I'm gonna go over there and I love Gung Ho. I love him, but they make him sound like, they're very either cliche characters or goofy little kid voices that they would do.
Or Wild Bill.
Woohoo! Wild Bill, and I had the copter with Wild Bill, and I love Wild Bill, but here's one I hate: Roadblock. I don't hate the way Roadblock. I don't hate the way he looks. I'm glad he's there. He's a great character, except every time I talk, I gotta rhyme.
Okay, yeah.
Knock it off. I'll read the comic of him. I'll play with the action figure as a kid. But there's no way I'm able to sit there through an episode, even as like a 10 or 9, 8-year-old, and go, are you serious? Nobody turns to him and goes, all right, shut up. You don't have to rhyme everything all the time. This is the military.
You can probably see something on a certain show like what the hell is that show that makes fun of like everything, Robot Chicken.
Sure.
So they go makes like with He-Man and all that. It's like they made fun of He-Man, and it's like, oh well, here's Prince Adam, and what I'm here.
But it's all lighthearted in that case. You know what I mean? Like I showed my son the when they do the Emperor Palpatine from Star Wars. He's the best character on Robot Chicken. He is. So we quote the Star Wars skits daily because like they really hit in the pocket with that kind of joke.
So since with that we call it, have you seen like the Obi-Wan series?
Just started last night. We watched episode 1. We're gonna watch episode 2 and we're done here talking.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, but okay. Here's a tangent. I love, and you probably feel the same. You watch the original trilogy, obviously classic.
Yeah.
They come out with the prequels, which were a little too political driven, but in hindsight, they still felt like they were Star Wars. You still felt the magic. Then they do these sequels, which Star Wars, along with Ghostbusters, and even Indiana Jones, there should have been more done with these franchises instead of one movie every 20 years if you're lucky.
Yeah,
These
yeah.
are these are the type of franchises that should have had ongoing movie series, television shows, yada yada yada. Well, they come out with these sequels, and I enjoyed the first one because Han was in it,
Yeah.
despite how he ends up. But the rest of it didn't feel like Star Wars at all, and it only went downhill from there. So now they start coming out with Mandalorian, Boba Fett, Obi-Wan. These are excellent. These are the Star Wars shows that should have happened 20 years ago, and they're smart enough to have them take place, most of them, after Jedi. So now we get to see more of Luke. Holy, we're getting to see Luke Skywalker be a full-blown Jedi doing Jedi things.
Yeah.
You know, I love that. So for a guy who never really considered himself a Star Wars guy, yeah, I watched them. Yeah, I like them. Are they part of my soul? Like MacGyver or comics or something, music? No. But boy, good is good. And these television shows, like my son, I took him to see the first of the new trilogy with Han, and then we worked our way backwards. I had him watch all the movies,
Mm-hmm.
and watch Mandalorian from the first episode with me, and we're in there. Anytime a new Star Wars show comes out, we're like, here we go. This is high quality stuff. But yeah, I mean, from the first episode, yeah, I'm I'm enjoying Obi-Wan. I think I always say we're in the golden age of entertainment right now, whether it be
Yeah.
superhero movies, superhero television shows, Star Wars. And you know why? Because the people who are our age that wanted this for the last 30 years are now in positions of power to
Yeah.
make it happen, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Exactly.
like they're really coming through on all the things that we dreamed of. I mean, people would laugh years ago when you'd say an Iron Man movie. Ant Man? He's not getting. Who the heck is Ant Man? Well, look at where we are now.
Yeah, but also like, I like the in the beginning you never even figured to like when you watch a movie and you go to a movie theater, and there is some people that will watch a movie and stay to the end. I mean, like to the end when the whole thing is fucking done.
And
I
the
mean,
lights come up.
yeah, the lights come. No, not even with the lights coming up, they'll still sit there and watch like the credits go towards the end until you see that like split different shadow things like how a videotape or something would keep on going and it's like
Yeah.
you know but when you watch like Marvel or whatever, like you're saying Iron Man or uh, Captain America, Ant Man, and now you have to pay attention to like the end of the credits because hello, they're gonna show some weird shit like at the end, and you're like, I didn't notice. We call what the fuck,
We constantly laugh. We'll sit there, whether it's me and the kids or my wife and the kids or whoever, and we know. I don't care what movie it is now. We're staying until the credits are done, no matter what movie,
Yeah,
Marvel or not, because now they've learned to throw in a little teaser at the end.
yeah, yeah,
Well, we'll laugh or roll our eyes or shake our heads when you see the people get up and leave. Like, have you learned nothing? Why would you leave before the end of the credits? You know there's going to be something.
yeah, exactly. It's like we were sitting at home and we're like, okay, well, we didn't go to the theaters because of the pandemic and all that.
Sure.
But when it came out to be doing on to TV, then you can see from the comfort of your own home, and all of a sudden, me and my girlfriend just sit there like, all right, here's the credits, and all of a sudden I'm ready to go, and she goes, "What are you doing? What are you doing? We're gonna show this," and I'm like, I fucking forgot. Okay,
Yeah.
like let me go and pause it for a minute, and then let me go get more popcorn, and and
Mm-hmm.
see what goes on. So it was like it's very entertaining when you watch it like that, and even like you said, any other movie because now some of these other movies that are not Marvel or Even DC is not gonna do it, but anything from a horror movie aspect
You
to
never know. It's worth sitting there for the extra 3 minutes,
even the
just out of
cartoons.
exactly.
You
You
know,
never know. Oh,
because it.
I love the DC animated movies.
Oh yeah,
Have you seen them? They're typically fantastic.
yeah. It's very like we there's like certain things that we're like picky about, and then there's like ones where because me and my girlfriend we have a tendency to there's a series that comes up, like say Hawkeye or Thor, not Thor. I mean like Hawkeye or Captain America and Falcon and even not Mockingbird Scarlett Johansson's character, and
Black
so
Widow.
yeah, and then we're just like, okay, well let's watch this, and we'll watch this, and I'm like, oh well, what about that other series that we were gonna watch, and that, and then she's like, well we still got Game of Thrones, and I'm like, well from what everybody says, season 5, that's it, you know,
Yeah,
it's
right.
like don't even go past season 5 because you're done.
They've really brought back with these Marvel shows and Star Wars shows, must see TV.
Yeah,
Like you're right. If okay, Game of Thrones, you'll get there. There's no real rush, but you have to keep up on your Marvel shows
yeah,
because WandaVision led into the new Doctor Strange.
yeah, yeah.
Wow, I mean, they really have everything interlaced in such a beautiful way that you
You
just
have to watch
appreciate
it like a
every
certain thing too, like Black Panther. You have to watch like a certain time, and then goes into
There's
this.
an order, yeah.
And then when you watch like towards the end, like the Infinity Wars and all that, and then you're like, holy shit! And then my girlfriend would be like, okay, well, what happened? How do we know about Captain Marvel? Do we? Which movie do we miss? And
Yep.
then we had to go back and figure out what movie do we miss, and we were watching. And I'm like, oh, and there's Captain Marvel at the end, and they're like, oh shit! I'm like, all right,
Yeah, and they snuck her origin story in between those movies.
yeah.
So you had to watch that before you saw Endgame.
And especially what's the one Shang Chi. You
Sure.
know, they towards the end, there was like the guy that works with Doctor Strange, and they brought in, and there's Captain Marvel,
Long.
and they're talking, and
Yep. They're
it's like
setting you
that
up for
whole
the next thing. They're setting you up, which is great. You know, being a comic book guy who knows his stuff, I can say that. Because again, I read the books. I don't just watch the movies.
yeah,
If anybody's going to be skeptical or a naysayer or go, oh, I don't know, it would be someone like me. But Marvel, I'm completely on board. I have all faith on Marvel as far as movies go, not as far as comic books currently go, but as far as their movie and television shows, I don't worry. I don't worry. DC, on the other hand, they need to get somebody in charge of that who knows their stuff and keeps a single vision. Like they have Kevin Feige for Marvel.
yeah,
He's kind of the guy who goes, look it, I have this planned out, follow what I'm saying. Warner Brothers, who owns DC, doesn't give a rat's rear end, which is why you get such scattered, uncharacteristic superheroes that are nothing like what you know
yeah.
to one degree or another. But yet with the animated stuff, they nail it. Like DC is great with the animation, Marvel, not really. But their movies are the other way.
Yeah.
Marvel's great, DC not so much overall. You know, it's amazing. You have to appreciate the fact that Marvel people care enough,
And,
and
and
you know why they're successful, because they stay true to the essence of who the character is.
I mean, it could be said now, like from when Captain America first came around and Iron Man, when the beginning of Captain America and Iron Man.
That's when Marvel started to control their own
Yeah,
movies.
they
What they used to
started doing the
do,
whole thing because when you had
they used
X
to
Men,
sign them off.
yeah, because you had X Men in the beginning, you, that was my pet peeve. Where I'm like, like you said, I read the comic books, I read a thing, I know what goes into what and who came into what section at that certain time. Then you look at, like, say, X-Men, like the very first one, or even the second one they put, they have characters that come in, and I'm like, those guys don't come in until, this one,
Sure. But in that case, I mean, the movie people had the advantage of, well, the guys who were writing the comics, they didn't mean to have Wolverine come in so many issues later. They had their original five guys, and then through, whatever. So the movie guys have the experience to look back at 20 years of comics and go, okay, so we don't have to follow the timeline as much, but we do have to get, well, we have to get Wolverine in there because he is the most popular, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, yeah.
So I can understand that. It's when they decide to go, we're going to change. Okay, here's a perfect example. Talk about X-Men. X-Men 1 is great. X-Men 2 is even better. Then the third one is a giant mess because they thought, you want more? We'll give you more. And they threw in all these characters,
Yeah.
including Juggernaut, which is a great villain by himself, but instead they make him a laughing stock who doesn't look like Juggernaut. And he just runs through a building, a couple walls, and then gets knocked out. Well,
Yeah.
you just wasted that character.
Yeah.
So, but they were like, well, you like X-Men? Here's 50 X-Men in one shot. Well, now we're overloaded. We don't know who these characters, I know, but a lot of the general public goes, who is that guy? And you're never going to know.
Yeah.
So, you have to have somebody standing over them to go, no. I understand what you're trying to do. No. We have a clear vision. And once Marvel, you got to remember in the 90s, Marvel filed for bankruptcy.
Yeah.
Because they had fished out all these characters to other companies, and you had great movies like the original X-Men movies or Spider-Man were great. And Blade was the first successful one. But before that, you had garbage movies because Dolph Lundgren is the Punisher. He was nothing like the Punisher. He didn't have the skull on his chest. His Thomas Jane had a decent movie, but his origin wasn't accurate because when you fish or hand out your franchise characters to a separate entity, you're allowing them to go, but I know better, and I'm going to change what is wanted. Well, that's why you had such. I mean, there used to be there was supposed to be maybe it did hit TV in the 70s. There was a Doctor Strange pilot.
Oh yeah, I think I remember seeing something on that. Yeah.
And it was nothing like it because there was no Marvel person standing over them saying no when they should have. So now Marvel files for bankruptcy because of the whole comic, people trying to get collectible comics.
Yeah.
And then, so they file for bankruptcy. You think, oh no, they're going away. They sign with Disney, who goes, you guys can make your own movies. You're in charge of your own characters. And because of that, now you get the great stuff because they had nowhere else to go. They went, all right, if we're going to fail, we at least should do our best.
Yeah.
And so from, movies like Iron Man on and Captain America, like you said, you're getting the cream of the crop.
Yeah, but with that, because you got the whole backstory, then you got the thing at the end of the credits where it draws you in even more, but then you got everything else. The only other pet peeve, I guess it's a pet peeve, is for me, if you're going to have a character, that character has to stay, that person that plays that character has to stay within that realm of that, instead of switching to different characters throughout the whole thing. So like Chris, he goes and does the Torch on Fantastic Four. Three years later, he's Captain America.
But you got to remember that Fantastic Four was not Marvel run or written or controlled. That was Fox.
No, I know, but I'm just saying for like character wise, because people that are looking at characters like how we do, how we see it, and then all of a sudden I'm like, oh my god, they're gonna be fucking confused. Like, well, I thought he was the Torch, and then which is funny with Ryan Reynolds when he was Green Lantern, which was like a spoof as it is, and then he did Deadpool. He's like, oh, just don't give me a green suit, and
Yeah.
and don't make it green, and like that kind of thing. And he made fun of the whole thing, which was awesome because I love the fact that we call he was like Deadpool, but Deadpool was like the trash mouth, but makes fun of everything, including what it is,
Well,
and yeah, I don't know. It's
I'll
just,
tell you with Chris Evans, I know what you're saying, and I remember people being skeptical at the time, going, "Wait a minute, wait, he's supposed to be Captain America." Thank God he was Captain America.
well, yeah, no, I
If
understand
you
that.
go back and watch him as Johnny Storm, to Chris Evans' acting credit, he's not playing the same character. It's hard to believe that Human Torch skinny kid is bulky, you know, super soldier Captain America. I can watch them side by side and forget that, wow, that's the same actor,
Yeah.
which is amazing because not everybody can pull that off. Like a lot of guys, you go, well, yeah, he's just playing the same guy over and over and over again. They just put a different suit on him.
Now, what character in Marvel would you want to see have a movie? Uh,
Daredevil,
well, yeah, I mean Daredevil had like the series as it is.
and
So
he's getting a new one. I know. Listen, he's my favorite character. He's my favorite comic book Marvel guy. So anything, and plus the series, Charlie Cox was so excellent. Just like Kingpin was just excellent.
oh yeah,
I mean, perfect casting. So more of that. I don't care how they do it. I don't care. Just keep bringing them back because I was part of the fan group Save Daredevil, which was trying to okay, once Netflix lets Marvel reuse the character, let's get going on that. And we saw that in Spider-Man, which was my favorite. One of my favorite parts of that last movie to see Matt Murdock show up. You're like, yeah, because before that there was some debate, oh, are they connected? They're supposed to be, but a lot of people are saying the Netflix shows aren't part of Marvel universe. Well, now with that they cemented that yes it is,
yeah.
you know. So yeah, Daredevil, I don't care if it's a movie. I personally, between you and me, I have found that television shows are nowadays, for the last 20, 30 years, are better than movies, whereas it used to be the other way around.
Mm-hmm.
Movies, you get 2 hours. You got to cram in a quick story. A television series, you could do seasons with story arcs and character development. You know, whereas with a movie, remember the Daredevil movie with
Yeah,
Ben
yeah,
Affleck? Okay, not as terrible as everybody says, but there were mistakes made, and one of them was the info dump that they had to cram in there.
yeah.
And then you have guys who go, let's put him in a tank to sleep in with water. That I don't what? Like
Doesn't make
that's not
sense.
he's never done that in the comics ever. That's not who he is.
Yeah.
Because some guy in the studio went, I want to make my mark. I am making this decision. Yeah, but it goes against the character. I don't care.
I
You
like
know,
the TV series, the TV movie actually they did, where like okay, I mean it is an older TV movie where the Incredible Hulk, Lou
I knew you were going to say
Ferrigno,
that. Trial of the Incredible Hulk was what it was.
yeah, but then you had Daredevil in there as it is too. You had the Incredible Hulk, and then they did another one where Incredible Hulk was teaming up with Thor.
Or yeah.
And those were really good back then. If they had the knowledge and gumption of doing like more shit to it, it would have been like more than what it would have been.
Or two at the time, yeah, you're right. Because at the time, that was blowing my mind. You're giving us crossovers. We're getting to see other heroes. Wow.
Yeah,
And you took what you can get, but technology hadn't caught up to where it had by the time Iron Man came out.
yeah,
Like they couldn't do the special effects that they could now. So in your mind, and that goes back to man, I love the greatest American hero, but in order to watch that, you have to just accept that the technology wasn't so great. So they're showing a stuntman being thrown over a tree. You know that's not that William Catt at that moment, but you got to
yeah,
just you deal with what you got. you try and make it work for your own headcanon and be thankful for what you had. Well, now, here's a perfect example of where that goes wrong. When they did the prequels for Star Wars, right?
Yeah.
Lucasfilm is known, or at least prides themselves on great special effects. Their special effects were not as great. Like when they show all the soldiers and they're all supposed to go and turn and march and walk together, and you could tell that whoever was in charge of that just copied and pasted the same figure because they all march perfectly. You could tell it's all computer generated.
Yeah.
I remember watching that and going, the show Stargate SG-1 special effects are flawless and are so much better than what the Star Wars movie is. Like, I couldn't believe it. I went, I can actually almost see the green screen with these soldiers.
Yeah.
So nowadays you see in Stargate they would do this shot, which I still don't know how they did it. They show the ship come in, land, the doors open up, and the guys walk in or out of that door and are in the same, like, it wasn't cut and pasted. There was no different camera angle. Ship comes down, they walk in or out, and now they're off the ship and they just continue the scene. How did they do that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's amazing. So nowadays, it all comes down to how well is the script written.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, but it's like when I started, like back when, like I said, X-Men started out, and I wanted to see it. Now at that time I was going to be married. I was going out with my girlfriend. Then we got married. But before that, I was like, honey, let's watch X-Men. Go out to the movies. She goes, I don't know. She was never one for comic book movies. And I think that was like the very first or somewhat very first comic book movie. And she goes, well, who's in it? I was like, well, there's a guy, Hugh Jackman. And she goes, I don't know who he is. And all of a sudden, I was like, oh, but then there's your favorite, Patrick Stewart. And she goes, wait, what? I'm like, yeah, because she has like she drove a Hyundai Scoop. It was like 97 probably, a Hyundai Scoop. And she had Captain Picard like super glued on her dash. Just like, and she loved Patrick Stewart. Just loved him to death. And then I said, oh, I think, Patrick Stewart's in it. He plays the professor in this. Well, what are we waiting for? Let's go. And I'm
There's
like,
a big hole in the wall where she ran through.
yeah, it's like, oh, let's go, and I'm like, all right. So we walked in, and I'm like, so what'd you think? And she goes, I actually like it. It was good. Patrick Stewart, major star. I'm like, yeah. But then it goes on, and then we saw, what was it? We went out and we saw Ghost Rider. It was like me and her and my brother-in-law, her younger brother. We went down there and we were watching Ghost Rider with Nicolas Cage, and I'm like, oh God. I loved it, but as you know, when we read the comics, there's like certain shit that they put on the screen. I'm like, why? Just because? I'm like, and she goes, well, what's wrong? I was like, listen, I've read the comics of Ghost Rider. I loved Ghost Rider. I sit in the back of my mom and dad's, station wagon where it has that back seat thing. You could see the people when you could sit in the back seat. And reading, the comic books of Ghost Rider at like 90-degree weather and shit, and, just like hanging out. And I read it. It's not like I look at the comics and see the pictures. I read it, and I didn't see anything that said, oh, I'm going to mimic Elvis fucking Presley. So, and then I see that, and I'm like, I don't think Ghost Rider knows Elvis Presley. I'm like, what the fuck is this about? And doing this.
There you go. That's a great example of they allowed Fox to do what they wanted with the character because, Stan Lee, as much as he's loved, he would shell out these characters because he didn't care about getting it right. He just thought, well, it's going to spread the word of our characters. Yeah. But you need someone to stand there and go, no. And now we have that. Which
It's
again, it baffles me that Warner Brothers would not, and they've kind of made this known. Many people say Warner Brothers doesn't care about DC Comics, and yet you own it. Like you should care because it'll make you money.
oh yeah, definitely major amount.
You
You
just
know,
have to do it. Did you
but
see the Batman?
oh yeah, the Batman.
Yep.
Uh, well, no, we saw it. I mean, I liked it. It's just I never figured Riddler to be like so evil. You know, like when you look at Riddler, like back in the days, even like Batman, series, he was more comical, more funny,
Sure.
and then you look at like the Riddler when he was in the movies with Jim Carrey, again, comical, funny, when Tommy Lee Jones as like Two Face, was like comical as it, but it was more theatrical movies. But
Sure.
then you had the dark version of Batman with Joker, Heath Ledger, my favorite villain of that part. With Heath Ledger, hands down, I love
Oh,
that.
without a doubt. Yeah, definitely.
And
I
then
mean,
you have,
you
but
could
then
watch him over and over again as that.
yeah, and then you had I forgot the guy. I guess the guy that did the pun. No, he didn't do the Punisher. But the guy that is like Two Face and all that, Harvey Dent.
Mhm.
He played
Yeah, yeah,
it
yeah.
like, yeah, he played it fucking
It was great.
awesome.
Mhm.
Especially how the Two Face turned
It was
out.
great.
It's just like the skin grafting and everything else, and I'm like, wow.
Hmm.
It was just like how dark that can get. I mean, yeah, they did the Catwoman, with Anne Hathaway, I think down the line. That was right. But then
Well,
even Bane.
that third movie really dropped the ball because they made mistakes right out of the gate because Batman wouldn't retire. They had
Yeah,
Batman. Oh, he got a hurt boo boo knee, so he retired and walks with a cane. No, I was done at that point. And even though Bane wasn't as Bane as he could have been, because Bane is a great villain in the comics. And he was good in the movie, but they didn't have the venom attached to him that bulks him up.
yeah,
And so again, that third movie, they just kind of it was nowhere near as good as The Dark Knight. Dark Knight was excellent. Batman got to be Batman. The Heath Ledger was brilliant as the Joker. You couldn't take your eyes off him.
that
And the
one
third
scene
movie,
though
you're
is
just
like,
like,
we're gonna have trials.
yeah,
There you go.
he was so charismatic. And I remember I was one of the people, like the rest of the world, that went, "Who'd they get for the Joker? The Australian kid? I don't, curly haired guy. I don't. Ugh." And then you see him, you go, "Wow." I'll tell you, it was the same thing for me with Ben Affleck as Batman. I was like, Ben Affleck. Every
Yeah,
time, because if you watch Ben Affleck in every movie that he is in beforehand, if he's not talking, he's slack jawed. He
yeah,
waits for his line. He'll say his line, and while the other person's talking, he'll go,
yeah.
"Well, I was so skeptical." My co-host at the time and he's like, "No, I think he'll be great." I'm like, "Okay, I hope he's great, but I don't know." He was great, and I publicly was very proud to say on the podcast, I was wrong. I love that I'm wrong. He was so good. As unfortunately, the Snyderverse is just a freaking mess that they can wipe off the face of the earth. You don't make Batman old in this first movie.
Yeah,
It should have, but despite that, he was so good. He kept his jaw shut when he wasn't talking.
yeah,
He had the demeanor of that. I was thrilled as to death. That scene in the Justice League where it shows him on the rooftop
yeah.
fighting the parademon.
Oh yeah, yeah,
That scene alone, I was like, I love the way he's moving and the way the cape is and the way that they have him, be
yeah.
Batman.
The thing that I didn't like about, like, I like Justice League. I just don't love it because
Right.
they have the you got Superman, you got Aquaman, which honestly they made Aquaman like buff because they want the girls to go, oh, I'm like, yeah, but
Right.
we all know that Aquaman was the gayest one. Uh, because like in the cartoons, like he wasn't that like big, and then
Well, in the comics, at one point, they did make him much more like Conan the Barbarian.
yeah,
Like he
yeah,
a hook for a hand and the long hair.
yeah, but that was like more when he was like more seasoned, and then he got older, and then whatnot. That was like with Aqualad as well, and then you had Wonder Woman. So you had Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, and even Cyborg. And Cyborg was like the youngest of pretty
And
much of them
Flash,
all.
and Flash.
But and Flash, and then which we know we're not going to get a Flash fucking movie because of what goes on.
I
Maybe,
think, I think we will. I just don't think they're gonna try too hard to promote it.
yeah. But also, there's another person that they're forgetting in that you know Justice League, and that's well, I'm not saying it's all of them because there is a big, huge Justice League Unlimited, but there's Justice League, and you have the Nuclear Man, Firestorm. You know,
Lantern, you gotta have Green Lantern in
yeah, the
there.
Green Lantern. You got Hawkman, Hawkgirl.
Sure.
Like that. So I don't know if they are gonna plan that into it down the line, but like you said, Marvel's on the ball, getting characters in here, in there, and more characters that you didn't even think that was gonna be in there, as it is, and now DC is just like slowly, bringing
Well,
them
the
in. But
mistake that they made with the whole franchise was they gave it to Zack Snyder, who already was writing a movie that could come down the line 10 years down the line. If you're doing the first Justice League movie, first of all, you got to get all the characters accurate. He
yeah,
didn't. Since Man of Steel, he didn't. He made Superman moody and I hate that I have superpowers. He's very like depressed. No, Superman is inspiration personified. He's saving people. You hear da 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 da. I feel chills when I hear that. I mean,
oh yeah,
Christopher Reeve. If you don't know, you watch Christopher Reeve, you go, "That's Superman." This, I don't know. He has his father telling him, "I don't know. Maybe you shouldn't save people." Well, that's not how Pa Kent talks.
yeah,
So from Man of Steel on, you let Zack Snyder just do these movies that aren't accurate to the characters. If you're going to do a Justice League movie, that should be like the way the Avengers were. Wait a minute, you have all of these epic characters together on a team. Well, in this case, he's already writing like the last Justice League story, and it's the first one.
yeah,
Thank God he didn't get to do a second Justice League because he was going to kill off Batman. He was going to make the world go into like an apocalyptic world because Darkseid was going to take over the Earth. Well, there's nowhere to go up from there. I mean,
yeah.
the most you can do is beat the bad guy, but your world is still destroyed. And you kill Batman? No thanks. No, 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 no.
Yeah.
So when they did, you're right. When they did like Shazam or Wonder Woman or even Aquaman, those were fun, great movies, and made you go, "I'm happy when I saw that movie." Not what the heck was that?
Yeah.
You know.
But if you had
So
for me, we call when I mentioned about what would be a character that you want to see, like and would be Daredevil. Mine would be Prince Namor,
okay,
the
I
Mariner.
think
I would
he's coming.
love to
I think
see.
I think he's coming. I think
Yeah,
once they introduce the Fantastic Four, which is being worked on, he made his introduction through. Well, no, he was around before the Fantastic Four, but he made his reintroduction through the Fantastic Four because he's kind of like a love interest for Sue Storm.
yeah.
I think he'll probably, if he's not in the first movie, he'll definitely be in the next Fantastic Four movie.
But I want to see. I want to see this thing we call where you got Spider Man. Now Iceman is in. We call it like the movies as it is now. You need a Firestar to
Yes, you do.
make the Spider-Man and Amazing Friends fucking movie.
I love that. Was one of my favorite cartoons ever. When I was a kid, it was because the animation was so great. They made Spider-Man act like a spider climbing up the walls,
Yeah,
you know, and he'd swing, and you really got the sense of wow, his movement is constant and
and the puns he does
sure.
too.
And I love that, and I love Super Friends because you got to see the Justice League together, and battling the bad
The
guys.
Hall of Doom.
Yeah, the
Legion of
Hall
Doom.
of Doom and Legion of Doom, and then they did the last season or two was the animation got even better, and they were fighting Darkseid, and the capes flew, like actually moved better in the wind with the animation, and I remember being blown away because what they did was they finally were starting to come out with the superpower toys, which were my favorite toys too. I
Yeah.
still have them right over there, actually. Um, and so they decided, well, we want to help sell these toys, so we should probably make the animation a little crisper, and that way we can introduce Cyborg, and we
Yeah.
can introduce Firestorm, and those were so good. So Spidey and his amazing friends, the super friends, superpowers, whatever they wanted to call it at any given time. The Ghostbusters animated series was excellent too.
Oh yeah.
I mean, they did serious stories. You're like, oh man, they don't know if they can get out of this, right?
Yeah, because they had they had the regular one, the Ghostbusters animated series, but then they had, well, I don't know which one's which. I know they had one where it's just the four of them, like regular
Yes.
Ghostbusters, and then there was one where they're driving a fucking T model fucking Ford, and have an ape.
That was earlier, which is why when they came out with the Ghostbusters animated series, they decided to call it the real Ghostbusters.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Right, because previously there was which I didn't even know about. I never saw that. I only saw
I
it.
watched it. It was pretty funny. I like that. Especially with the T model, like Ford, they crank it up and they like,
Yeah. But the real Ghostbusters animated series was so good. The animation was so good. The stories, you never knew where they were going to go.
The Sandman.
That was amazing. I remember being a kid and watching it on a Saturday morning and going, wow. I actually feel like it's not, hey, you're a kid, so we're going to, like they would always throw in, like with He-Man or Thundercats, some corporate guy thought we have to throw in a stupid character because that's what the kids will relate to.
Nah.
So with He-Man, you had Orko. With Thundercats, you had Snarf.
Yeah,
I hated Snarf. I hated it. I'm like, shut up. Like, this doesn't make me want to watch this show. It makes me want to turn it off. Well, with Ghostbusters, real Ghostbusters, they'd have Slimer. Okay. But he wasn't in every shot.
Nah.
Slimer, come in and do his thing. And then, all right, go away. We're going to do serious stories now.
Yeah. It's like, but then you had Silverhawk. Well, I mean, I'm not saying that you had like funny characters. Well, yeah, okay. With Silverhawks, you probably did have like a certain funny character, like the cabbie in Silverhawks. You go, hey,
Sure.
You know what I mean? And it's like your typical cabbie in New York kind of thing. And I'm like, oh, I kind of relate to that. I'm like, all right, cool. And then, but that's where Saturday morning cartoons was the best. You wake up 9, 8 o'clock in the morning. You watch your Smurfs. You watch the Snorks.
Smurfs, yep.
Yeah, Smurfs, the Snorks.
The Snorks were the spinoff, yeah.
Yeah, and then you go on, and then there was Dungeons and Dragons.
Which I never got into, but I appreciated. I appreciated the animation. I appreciated the way that they were dressed.
Yeah.
But it never grabbed me. You know what I mean? Because at that time when that was on, like Spidey might be on. So it was one of those, you got to make your decision. What at each half hour, what are you jumping to?
Yeah, because I tried to jump back and forth, and that was me. I'm like back, like that, whatever, and I watched, like He-Man, and then She-Ra, and then you had, Thundercats and Silverhawks, and then they got one called Sectors and Inhumanoids.
I had one of those. I have the riding one.
Oh yeah.
The Sectors where you put your hand in and it's the legs.
Yeah.
But you flip a switch and the dragonfly wings do this.
Yeah.
That's a great toy. That should have been much more successful than it was.
Jason the Wheeled Warriors. Even Mr. T had a great fucking cartoon. That was awesome. It was like a G.I. Joe kind of type. Not a G.I. Joe, but it had the ethics of, like, he's in the beginning, he's himself. He tells you, he's like, oh, this is like the caper of, the milk that went dry or something like that, blah, 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 blah. And then they go into it. And then after they go and do a commercial, and he goes, oh, we'll be right back. Let me go fix this car over here. And then, but then all of a sudden after, it's like a PSA kind of thing at the end. Like G.I. Joe did a PSAs, for
Sure.
the cartoon. And,
Yep.
He-Man did the same thing, and that was the biggest thing. And what was the
No
other
winners
one?
half the battle.
Well, yeah. What was the one? Like, G.I. Joe I'll watch as well, you know, and getting to that, we call it like Snake Eyes, Timber, Duke. I like Lady J. I like the newer ones they had, like Sci-Fi, where the names is just like ridiculous.
Well, the name I didn't. I mean, there was one called Chuckles,
Yeah,
and he was very much a Miami Vice inspired guy. He wore like a Hawaiian shirt
yeah, the
and
Hawaiian shirt with the gun
had the
belt.
holster with the gun.
Yeah,
I like him as a character. Like, I don't know if he was ever in an episode, but I had the action figure, and I thought, I'll take this because he's an undercover. He's part of the military, but you could also use him to be like an
no, but
undercover
they
cop.
they used them in G.I. Joe the movie.
Okay.
They did
Okay.
a movie with the Serpentor, but they had a
Yeah.
Cobra La.
Go over. La, 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 la.
Yeah, yeah.
I got all three of those figures. That raised the bar so high for me when I saw that in the theater. I'm like, wait a minute.
Burgess Meredith.
These are the people that make the bad guys scared.
Yeah.
Oh, and they're all fighting them, and the enforcer guy is just slamming people across over. You got guys like Quick Kick and Snake Eyes attacking a guy, and he's just slamming them against the wall and knocking them out. And you go, oh boy, those were the big guys. When you're slapping around Gung Ho and Roadblock.
But then Sergeant Slaughter comes around and he's like, picks him up like body slams him, and
Do you
I'm
know
like,
that? Do you know that Sergeant Slaughter follows me on Twitter?
really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Out of the blue, he's like, "Yep, Sergeant Slaughter is now," and it's the real guy too. I'm like, I'll take it.
I know. I was like, holy shit. Oh, what was the other one? They had Don Johnson being like Lieutenant Falcon.
Falcon.
And then,
Who
but then,
was Duke's brother.
yeah. No,
And Duke-
Flint's brother. No, I
Was
think
it?
so.
No, it was Duke because Duke was supposed to die in the movie.
That's right. That's right. Yeah,
Originally,
yeah,
He gets stabbed with the snake thing from Serpentor,
yeah,
and thank God they didn't kill him because again, he's one of my favorites.
yeah.
But
Yeah,
originally, when they wrote it, they were like, "Yeah, he dies," and then I guess last minute they're like, "Yeah, let's not kill him. He gets better."
But even I like Scarlet, the redhead.
Sure,
Love
sure.
Scarlet, and then but then they had like I said, I like the code names that they think of. Like you got Sci-Fi, Lift Ticket.
Outback. I loved Outback. Outback was very, in my mind, the MacGyver like outdoorsy guy because he
Yeah.
was the guy who would go through and hack down stuff. And,
I forgot who's the guy that does the safari. Like he has
Condo?
huh?
Condo.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah, the
Ricardo,
hat.
okay. Yeah, half hat. And then they had toll booth. We had the bridge, and it all suits the thing. Spirit with freedom.
Love Spirit. They did a great couple episodes where Spirit had to fight Storm Shadow.
Yeah, that was like
That
their
was
mortal
great.
enemy. And
Yeah,
then
you're like, wait a minute, shouldn't that be Snake Eyes? No, it
Yeah.
should always be, but I accepted it.
well, it's a mixed bag basically, And then the one episode I love on GI Joe as well, where they had the families. They take the families of like they came across the real identities of GI Joe, and then they took the families, they brainwashed them to fight GI Joe for their battles, and it was like Quick Kick, uh, Scarlet, Quick Kick, Spirit. Um,
Was it Stalker?
no, not Stalker. Shipwreck. Who else? There was a guy. He had like he always wore like a mask and a visor and all that. It was oh, I forgot, but he wasn't like a character you see like all the time.
Okay.
Barbecue.
Was it Low Light?
No. I love. There's a story about low light. We call that. I'm going to tell you in a few minutes. Um, I forgot the fucking name. But anyway, um, low light. When I was watching the episode where they used the dream sequence, there's an episode
And I haven't
where,
seen those in years.
huh? Oh, okay. But
I haven't
there's
seen
a scene where there's an episode where Doctor Mindbender, like one of the new characters,
Yeah,
he
yeah.
makes like a sleep thing, like a dream machine, where they go into the dreams of GI Joe and they do nightmares and everything else, and they're all like fucking tired, so they won't be able to fight Cobra as it is. So they come across, they don't come across, but there's a guy that's on their team called Lowlight, where he dealt with nightmares all his life, and he hasn't slept in like 20 fucking years. He'll get a little bit here, a little bit there, whatever. So they're like, well, his dossier says we call it he dealt with bad dreams, and he's been still doing it. So they siphon like his dreams through all GI Joe to fight Cobra, and then he's over there with like huge rats, and he's riding on rats, and
Huh.
it was like, and then you see Doctor Mindbender look like the king snake in the nightmares, and having the snakes like attack, like Iceberg and Lady J, and they'll be like in a and then you see General Hawk, the one your favorite. We call it, it's like, I don't know if I can lead. Oh my god, they're going to their deaths.
You reminded me. One of the figures I love too was Snow Job.
Oh yeah.
Skier. I used to use his skis, and as a kid, I would reenact Out in the Cold episode of MacGyver, where he's trying to outrun the avalanche.
Oh yeah.
Right? Because they didn't have MacGyver toys. I don't know why, but so I'd have to use my GI Joe guys and go, okay, this guy kind of. I mean, I guess I could pretend he's MacGyver. This guy's got a leather jacket. Okay, he's got that color hair. Okay, but I had the action figure Snow Job, and I would just either pretend Snow Job was MacGyver, or I'd put the skis on another guy and like reenact that whole avalanche thing. And
Yeah.
that's a great episode too, because it was one of those where you got essentially 2 episodes in an hour. There's the
Yeah.
avalanche part of it, and watch him escape. There's one episode. And then the second is, them kidnapping Pete and trying to get the microfilm. And it
Yeah.
really, and then the hour is over. Even now, as I watch them, I go, wow. Same thing with Stargate, because a lot of the people from MacGyver moved over to Stargate. So you're watching these episodes go, that felt like a movie, and that's only been an hour. That's the power of good writing.
Yeah.
I mean, they really, nothing felt crammed. It all felt like it naturally moved, but everything was constantly going. You go, that was only an hour, or 45 minutes if you take out the commercials. Wow,
Yeah.
right? So I used to use my GI Joes that way.
So, but with GI Joe, we always have to come to an end of like an episode, and this is like
Here we go.
it's getting near to the we're on like an hour and 45.
Yeah,
So
I noticed.
well,
I was wondering which one of us was going to bring that up too, because I'm like, do I say something, or is he going to know when he's going to?
No, I do. I usually like I will go into like 2 hours, whatever. But I'm getting hungry as it is too.
Me too. And my daughter's having a friend over. They're going to have a sleepover. So
there you go. So you need to do the parental we call it advisory. Again, with the GI Joe, you got to do parental advisories. But tell everybody where they can find you, where platforms you're on, and
the best place to go for all of the many things that I'm happy to have my hands in. If you look up the Forever Adventure Network, look up that's going to give you links to. I have a YouTube page where you can watch episodes. There's a store, a couple stores. My buddy makes it's called well, if you go there, you'll find it. He makes ID badges. Anything that you've seen on a television show, for $5, he will even customize a badge. Like if you like Stargate or X-Files, he'll give you the badge that they wear. For $5, you can't go wrong. You can't see it out my window, but I have a flag that I just posted or put up called it's an SGC flag, like they have in the show. $20, you can't go wrong. but we have stores there, Redbubble, T Public with stuff. We have, I do art for the audio series for the podcast. Like you, I'll do those. Imagine if this character met that character, what that would be like.
Yeah.
So I do those type of art, which you could see. We have our Twitter pages for the MacGyver podcast, the Never Gets Old podcast, the MacGyver SG1 audio series. I have Twitter pages. We have Facebook groups. I have a comic strip that I occasionally do. There's the music. Essentially, I mean, you're going to find any of these things if you just type it into Google. But if you want one easy place to branch off and see everything, go to the Forever Adventure Network. And from that, click on any topic that you like. You like pop culture? Go to the Never Gets Old podcast. You like MacGyver? Well, you have the MacGyver podcast, or you have the MacGyver SG1 audio series. You like music? Check out Harmony Constant. That's the name of my band where you can see the stuff I'm working on.
Yeah.
But just go to the Forever Adventure Network. That's probably your easiest, safest bet.
I'm gonna look up that guy we call it to do the badges. Maybe you can do like the Phoenix Foundation with my own face.
He has them. He has them.
Oh.
Okay. I got a MacGyver one from him just to have, because obviously I already had a Jack O'Neill one, but I got also a Gil Grissom from CSI badge, and I took my daughter trick or treating. Well, I was wearing my CSI hat, which is accurate to the show, and I thought, you know what? And I just grabbed the thing and I hung it from my jacket, which looked very much like Gil Grissom. Well, throughout the night, it was funny. I just did it as something to wear. I'm walking around. People are stopping me, going, "Are you with the police? Are you here to keep us protected?" I said, "No, I work with the police. I'm a CSI." And I showed them the badge. And they're looking at the picture, going,
"Holy shit!
Doesn't look like you. You don't look like the guy in the photo." But all right, thank you, sir. And they're on their way.
Thank you for your service. Okay,
yeah. Definitely look it up. Look under our shops tab, and you're gonna see his. I'm telling you, make out like a bandit, because he's not in it to be greedy. $5 a badge, $20 for a flag. If you like Star Wars, he's got Star Wars flags. You like Stargate, he's got. You name it, chances are he has it.
Okay, cool. I'm gonna look him up and then do that. Yeah. Well, not look him up, but go to your thing. Yeah, what I haven't written down here, the Forever Adventures Network.
Yep.
Yeah, so I'll look that into it, and also, folks, you can go and check me out on Linktree, linktr.ee/Tattoo Squid Podcast. That's TA2SQUID podcast, all one word, and go to YouTube, TikTok, Twitch, Twitter, like where we all are, like residents of, and also go and look at the merch, where you can go to tattoosquidpod.threadless.com, where you can get shirts, sweatshirts, bandanas, masks if you do still wear masks,
stickers,
stickers and magnets, the gunny sacks that you wear like everybody else wears, like the knapsacks and all. There's knapsacks on there as well. Shower curtains and bath mats.
Yeah, Redbubble is amazing for that type of stuff. Like Redbubble, you can have bed sheets. You like MacGyver, you want his face all over the place. There you go. Like,
Duvets.
Pillows, different size pillows.
Yeah.
Mugs, thermoses.
Oh no, not duvets. Was it duvets? No, it's not duvets. Like duvets are the ones that shoot the water in your ass.
No. I know what you're saying.
Yeah, but it's the thing for the covers or whatever. So you get one of those as well. Just check it out. It's a pretty decent, pricing, I guess. I don't really do the pricing, but hey.
I'll tell you. Well, wait. Here's what you do, and this is what I'm doing. Like this weekend in particular, 60%, up to 60% off anything at the store, and I guarantee it's the same for yours. Every month they do like some good sale. That's when you remind people, hey, get in there and get something while the getting's good.
Yeah, but the only thing about that, because I know this like usually goes out like maybe in a month. So with the sale, it's probably done anyway. So I just say just go on air, just
Sure.
check it out as it is. So because I can't really say if there's a sale or not because by the time it gets out and they look and they listen and whatever, it's like the sale's
But
probably
if you
done
keep
like
an eye
a
out,
month.
like every couple of weeks, it's worth definitely
Yeah, no,
checking.
definitely. Again, you can find out what it is and it's all good. And like I said, it's even decent pricing. Before even with the sale or without a sale, it's decent pricing. So you don't really you get coffee mugs too. I'm like,
Yeah, I'm
we got
telling
them
you,
in.
I've had people that get shirts, T-shirts, stickers. Stickers are less than $1. Grab
Yeah,
a sticker or two.
yeah.
Knock yourself out.
I mean, I don't have to send you a sticker of mine. We call it, and vice versa, I guess, so we can put it on the board. Yeah,
I'll put it on my guitar case. If you
there we
look,
go.
I'll show you. Look at, I have MacGyver podcast, some Stargate stuff. So yeah, it'll have a happy home among all the other
There you go.
things. Yeah.
Yeah, later on we call it. Just message me when you have free time your address, and then
I will.
and then I'll do the same, and then we'll send it out there, and
Beautiful.
because I got my
I'll be
friends board.
proud to have
Cool. Same here, bro. So,
it.
all right, people, take it easy. It is Saturday in the afternoon, and I'm gonna have another one around like 7 o'clock later on too, uh, and then happy Memorial Day to everybody, especially the veterans. Um, we support your service and all that you do,
Yes.
and 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 I say this, we call even though you go to places and you get free food at like whatever place that you go to, that for veterans on Memorial Day, they should get more free shit than food. You
Yep.
know,
Without
I
a
mean,
doubt.
some of the vets that are on the streets, or like living on the streets and all that. You gotta like try to help them out.
Definitely.
So, but all right, take it easy, Mac. Thank you very much for being on the podcast, and I will talk to you another time.
You bet.
Um, I usually go and talk to people afterwards, but I know you got something to do. I gotta go and get something to eat. So,
All right.
alrighty, sir. I will talk to you soon.
Thanks again.
Alrighty, everybody. Have a good day.
Bye.